Hi guys, so William Wragg is an interesting figure. He's a vice chair of the 1922 committee. Now for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a group of MPs who are the ones who decide between a prime minister holding on to their job or that person getting the sack. He's also a member of the anti-lockdown CRG or COVID recovery group, a bit like the anti-European ERG. So in this clip where he was interviewed by the BBC, he basically calls for Boris Johnson to resign. But is he doing this because of the pandemic, or is there some other motivation? Remember, this is someone who holds Boris Johnson's fate in his hands.
And I'm particularly concerned, as a Conservative MP, with the interests of the country, my constituency, and the Conservative Party, that a series of unforced errors on matters of integrity are deeply damaging to the perception of my colleagues and the party, and that is deeply unfair to them. As colleagues are saying to one another and off the record, I sadly think that the Prime Minister's position is untenable, and I don't believe it should be left to the findings of a civil servant to determine the future of the Prime Minister and indeed who governs this country. I think it is for the Conservative Party, if not the Prime Minister, in fact, to make that decision and to realise what is in the best interest so that we can move forward both as a party and a country.
Now, why is he saying this? He's going to say another bit in a moment, but I want to ask, why is he saying this? Is it because of his CRG position, or is it because of his position in the 1922 committee? Because the 1922 committee care about the party. They want to protect the party. But the CRG, and I've said this before, I believe they want to create a power base within the Conservative Party, where a future Prime Minister, or Boris Johnson at the moment, will have to come to them in order to get a bill through Parliament or something like that.
Are you saying that you think the Prime Minister should step down or be forced from office in the next few weeks or months, certainly before the May elections?
I think it's a tragedy that things have come to pass in this way, and no doubt the Prime Minister is reflecting deeply on what has happened, but I cannot in all sincerity see a way where these issues go away and that we can move on and that we can be the party I know that we are, which is with the interests of the country and its people at our heart, without this constant distraction. It's deeply unfortunate, but I'm afraid it is the inevitable conclusion is the only way to do that is with a change.
So he cares more about the image of the party. He claims that the party wants to get on with the work of looking after the public and working for people. Obviously that's not true, because the Conservative Party don't give a crap about ordinary people. I think he's putting on his CRG hat here, where he's saying that, you know, all of this is a distraction. And a lot of these people want to return to what Brexit hardman Steve Baker described as the old normal. They see all of these things as a distraction from them selling off the NHS, or as a distraction from them pushing through with Brexit. They don't care about the public. And I think they see Boris Johnson as weak, and he got them their 80-seat majority, and now it's time for him to go.
Would you like him to offer his resignation?
I think that would be preferable, because it's difficult enough for colleagues, and I feel a great deal of sympathy for them. They're tired, they're frankly worn out of defending what is invariably indefensible, and that for their sakes at least the Prime Minister should see that and do the right thing.
Do the right thing is a euphemism for resign. Notice he didn't say anything about the victims here of the pandemic and how his government have dropped the ball, actually thrown the ball away in a sense. How his government did not take this seriously. And I think this is probably the CRG aspect of it here, where, you know, these are people who don't really care about the public. They care about businesses reopening. They want people to get back into city centres, to buy sandwiches, to restart the economy, and to hell with the consequences. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to suffer the consequences of this pandemic. They're going to be protected. It's ordinary working class people who will be exposed the most. And we've seen it during the pandemic as well. These people want Boris Johnson out. They want somebody who's maybe more friendly to their position regarding the pandemic. They just want to get back to normal. And they see, and I think they're going to be disappointed if they do, because whoever is going to replace Boris Johnson is still going to have to deal with this pandemic. I think if I was a betting man, as I said before, I'd put my money on Rishi Sunak replacing Johnson. Rishi Sunak on Wednesday distanced himself very much from, but in a physical sense as well, from Boris Johnson. He was about 200 miles away during Prime Minister's questions. That was a clear sign to me that he doesn't want anything to do with Boris Johnson. Now, some MPs have come out, some ministers have come out and defended Johnson, stood by him. Liz Truss being one, which was very interesting. But I think Liz Truss is the type of politician who will support the Prime Minister right up until that moment where she pulls the rug from under him. So she's not somebody to be considered trustworthy. But Boris Johnson's days are numbered. What's on Wednesday during Prime Minister's questions, he responded to these accusations regarding one event. And I said that before. All he's referring to is one party, not, as we're probably seeing, dozens of parties. And of course he's attended many of them. Of course he broke the rules. Of course his staff broke the rules. And of course he knew about it and did nothing about it. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a drip, drip, drip of more allegations, more evidence, pictures, maybe even video. There has to be something. And it's becoming more and more difficult for Boris Johnson to hold on. Even the leader of the Scottish Conservatives called for him to resign, and all of the members of the Scottish Conservative Party in the Scottish Parliament have called on Johnson to resign too. Now, they're doing it for a different reason. They're looking at the long-term goal there. They want Boris Johnson out because he's deeply unpopular in Scotland. They would prefer somebody else. And there's no real skin off their nose getting rid of the Prime Minister. But the people close to him, the Jacob Rees-Moggs, the Liz Trusses, those people are probably looking around them and saying, okay, should we stick with him? Because he's going to go. They know he's going to go. It's just a matter of time. And the longer he stays, the deeper the rot will become. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.